Hello, my name is Ollie, and dear god, it has been a while since I last made any new content, huh? What, 6 months? Well, since I'm planning an upcoming weekly video series anyway, let's kick this channel back to life with the main thing I like focusing my videos on: LGBT romances in media. And today's piece of media is none other than Doukyuusei. So to give a little background, Doukyuusei began its humble roots as a manga series by Asumiko Nakahara back in 2006. While there were a few drama CDs and sequels between this horrifying decade-long gap of waiting for an animated adaptation, it never came onto my radar until this year, where it received an hour-long movie covering the original manga and a surprising release in US theatres. Now, I was way too excited and nervous about whether this would be another generic and cliché yaoi love story, so I checked out the manga a few weeks before I got hold of a subbed version of the movie to see if it'd be worth my time. Spoilers, it was. I remember reading up on this film, checking the cast listing on the official website, and watching the trailers to get a feel for the voices. And when I saw Hiroshi Kamiya was playing Kusakabe, I'll admit I had my doubts that he could pull off that kind of role despite being a very versatile voice actor. Wouldn't you know it? I don't think they could have picked anyone better. He was absolutely perfect and cinched his delivery of each line wonderfully. Kenji Nojima, who plays Sajou, is another popular voice actor that I'm admittedly less familiar with, but he did a great job too. Kamiya and Nojima managed to bounce off each other perfectly somehow, and it only strengthened the movie's credibility. Okay, so far everything's looking pretty good, I thought to myself, blissfully unaware of a potential spanner in the works until I checked the My Anime List page for this film, and then you see that it's made by A1 Pictures. Oh no. Oh no. But then I reminded myself that A1 Pictures was also responsible for a fun little anime I watched back in 2012 called Tsuritama, and a show that I did find myself quite liking earlier this year called Boku Dake ga Inai Machi. I spent 5 hours writing a video on only to scrap the script at the last minute. So I told myself to push through the haze of absolute garbage the studio had presented to the anime community in recent years and put my faith in them for this one simple task. And boy did it pay off, because the art and animation here is wonderful. Doukyuusei manages to keep a pretty consistent aesthetic of pale, washed-out colours in its scenery and backgrounds, with everything almost looking like a hazy summer memory to tie in with the sweet and nostalgic feeling of the movie. It's like an animated watercolour painting, and I really appreciate the subtle detail that just adding a bit of texture to the art creates. That said, it's not so much A1 Pictures' use of colours that have earned them an unfavourable reputation in the anime critic community, but rather their pacing and writing when it comes to adaptations. So did Doukyuusei fall flat in this aspect, as have many that have come before it? No, not at all. In fact, I can pretty confidently say that this is the best adaptation A1 Pictures have done so far this decade. They stayed so true to the original source material, scene for scene, line for line, that I can't fault them at all. The story is paced exactly how it should be. No section drags on too long, and we get enough interaction between Kusakabe and Sajou to feel like their relationship is sincerely developing, despite the time skips we go through during the story. To manage all this in an hour-long time frame is commendable, and even if I wish the film had gone on longer, I have to honestly say that the pacing and handling of each part of the story was fine and never overstayed its welcome. Hats off to you, A1 Pictures. It took you 4 goddamn years to get back in my good books, but you did it.
Now stay there and never disappoint me again.
Talking about the story there, this is where the question proposed by the video gets the meat for its answer. Doukyuusei is, without a doubt, one of the best written Japanese boys' love stories you can get your hands on. It's such a desperately needed and refreshing change to a genre filled with horrible tropes and uncomfortable cliches, and I now cling to it as a beacon of hope in the stagnant cesspool that has been shonen ai in the last 15 years. This movie had the perfect blend of comedic and emotional scenes, neither ever feeling particularly out of place or creating bad mood whiplash that can take you out of the story. It's not desperately trying to be funny, it's not desperately trying to make you cry, it just wants you to get the right amount of alleviation between intimate and tense scenes without desensitizing you to the moments that need you to feel something. And I appreciate that, despite me being very easy to cry, and I admit that I may have teared up a little during the ending. It happens. Another strength in the narrative is the fact that Kusakabe and Sajou don't take long to become a couple. Now, pairing two characters quickly can be a major downfall in some works of fiction, but it all depends on how you do it. And Doukyuusei does it right by keeping its cast small and its interactions believable. The only other main presence in the story after our two lovebirds is their teacher, Haru-sensei, who doesn't get any major screen time in the first part of the movie where our protagonists are falling in love and getting together, although we will be begrudgingly talking about him later on. The point that I'm trying to make is that while Kusakabe and Sajou are becoming a couple, we're not given any characters that could get in the way or unintentionally have a better chemistry with them than they do together, and that leaves us rooting for the relationship even more. So when their romance does blossom in the first act, we don't have anything holding us back or giving us a major reason to not want to see these two together, since there's nothing that can give us a rational bias against them. I will admit that when we do get to the conflicts in the story, they're not exactly revolutionary. It's all stuff I've seen done before in any number of school-based rom-coms, hell, even High School Musical, but it's nothing I couldn't bear to sit through. The thing that makes these conflicts interesting is how different kusakabe and sajou's responses to them are, and it allows us to see even further just how much they contrast against each other, reminding us of why they're so interesting to watch in the first place. And with these conflicts come adorable resolutions that demonstrate just how strong their puppy love is for each other, creating some of the cutest scenes in the entire movie as a well-earned tension dissolver, especially in the third act. Besides, if I'm being honest, I didn't watch Doukyuusei for the high school drama side of things. I checked this movie out because I was so in need of a boys' love story that didn't make me bitter and angry with all the issues that have plagued Yaoi media for as long as I've been invested in it. Even in 2016, we're still getting handed anime like Super Lovers, shows that have no real passion or substance in them, created solely to grab your money and saturate the market with even more issues that make Yaoi fans look bad. And yes, while a lot of fangirls out there only care about hot guy-on-guy action, you also get people like me. People that want a romance that can stand equal with some of the most famous anime couples of all time. People that are gay, bi and pan, people that want to see their identity represented honestly in the shows that they watch and the things that they read. Standard Yaoi's biggest flaws are all things that shouldn't even be treated as fetish material in the first place. Rape, Stockholm Syndrome, emotional abuse, age gaps, all these things that should be handled tactfully get glamorized in the majority of shonen ai content. I am so sick of having to sit through scenes of sexual harassment or abuse and be expected to enjoy it or find it hot. I don't like it, and I don't want to see it portrayed so positively. I don't want to see it treated like a normal thing gay men do. How many years has it taken to quell the stereotype of homosexuals being paedophiles? How many years has it been, and still, innocent gay men are seen as indiscriminate rapists in the eyes of homophobic people? As the LGBT community works every day to abolish these ideas, it's things like the majority of yaoi porn and anime that keep these notions fresh in people's minds. Granted, it's not the sole cause of it, but it contributes, and that's still infuriating. Doukyuusei had one moment like this, and even then it was miles better than the stuff I've had to sit through before. Spoilers ahead for roughly the middle of the movie. So, in the second part of the story, Hara-sensei, the teacher I mentioned earlier, figures out that there's something going on between Kusakabe and Sajou. Having learned this, he proceeds to get Sajou alone and flirt with him, culminating in an almost kiss until Kusakabe walks in on them, hits the teacher, and drags Sajou away with him. And yes, while I still firmly dislike this scene, let's go over why it was still significantly better than what I've seen done in your typical boys love anime. Firstly, the way this scene is coloured, we're not meant to get a romantic vibe from it. It's dark, it's bleak, it's not the same as we've seen with Kusakabe. It's apparent that this isn't an okay setting, and we shouldn't be thinking of this as something cute and saucy, but something threatening and uncomfortable. Beyond that, this is the only time in the movie that we see this kind of thing. After this scene, Hara-sensei and Sajou don't interact for the rest of the movie, and it's not brought up again. It's apparent that they tried to remedy how cliché this moment was by abandoning the plotline entirely after this part of the story, and while the best way to do this would have been to remove the moment altogether, it's likely that the author felt that she had to include something a little generic in the yaoi genre, while still trying her best to make sure we weren't meant to take it as an endearing moment. The movie cuts out a chapter of the manga dedicated to explaining why Hara-sensei apparently had feelings for Sajou, which is fine with me as it left us to focus on the actual romance going on, but ultimately, while I can defend this scene as not that bad in comparison to others like it, I won't deny that the story would have been better off entirely without it. Still, it didn't ruin it for me, and this moment is completely dwarfed by how fantastic Kusakabe and Sajou's relationship is portrayed, that I hardly ever recall this scene when thinking back on the film, thanks to how much better the rest of it was. So no, Doukyuusei isn't perfect. Nothing is. Everything has its flaws, even that thing you really like. But the question I pose now is as follows. Did Doukyuusei manage to save the animated boys love genre with this sorely needed movie adaptation? In my opinion, yes, it absolutely did. I felt so refreshed after finishing this movie, so honestly satisfied and pleased with everything about it that it instantly climbed to the top of my favourite Japanese movies. The love that we see here is so sincere and so sweet, faced with realistic troubles and challenges, that I felt like I was watching a real couple develop and grow right in front of my eyes. We finally have something that accurately presents gay teen love without mood-crushing themes of forbidden love and rejection by society. Just pure romance between two boys as they fall harder and harder while overcoming the obstacles of growing up and leaving school. No, depicting homophobia isn't a bad thing, but you don't understand how satisfying it is to get a same-sex love story where they can just be with each other without any negativity except for the conflicts that arise in any normal rom-com. If you have a spare hour, take the time to sit down and watch this movie. See for yourself what I mean when I say it gives us such a pleasant change from what we've seen constantly in the last decade of yaoi anime and manga. I can't recommend Doukyuusei highly enough, and I really hope you'll feel the same way.